All right, welcome back to the Doug Karns program here on All Noise Radio, 267-495-4866 or dougkarnsprogram@gmail.com. All right, so we were talking about Newt Gingrich in the last break, and he's a big FDR lover.
He loves him.
I mean, he wants to model himself after FDR.
Oh, no.
I'm pretty sure he has a man crush on FDR.
It sounds like it.
I mean, he's very sexy in both, politically and looks-wise.
Yeah, physically, yeah.
But let's just go through some of the policies here because
whoever's a Newt fan
that's
listening to this.
Yeah, this is going to turn you off.
Oh.
All right, so number one on the list is climate change. Now,
he actually believes in global warming.
Now, I have a lot of people in my life that would tell me climate change is happening. Now, I'm not going to dispute the fact that climate change is happening, but I'm also going to say that I don't think it's man-made because we've had one of the hottest years ever known to man was in the 1800s on record when we first started keeping record. I think it was like 1898 or 97 or something like that. Plus, I just read this year that we're actually gaining ice up in the polar ice caps. So, I don't see what the issue is right now. The temperature hasn't been spiking like it was and my whole theory about the climate change is that I know we're getting off topic here, but it's because of solar flares. Now, if you ever read anything about solar flares, when they come from the sun, and we got a majority of them in the late 90s, that's why we had such hot years in that time period. And coincidentally, since we've been stopped getting solar flares, the temperatures have gone down. So, I mean, that's one fact. Now, I don't have anything in front of me, so you're just going to have to, do your own research on that. I had that story months ago, but it's just something to look into. But anyways, so Newt Gingrich actually wants policy to help change climate change.
Yeah.
Or help fix climate change.
And number two, he supports the individual health care mandate, which is basically
A progressive idea.
Yeah, yeah.
Everybody should have health care.
Uh,
Health care is a privilege. It's not a right. Education is a privilege. It's not a right. Now, what you have a right to is freedom. That's what you have a right to. You have a right to your own free will, as long as you're not harming anybody else. That's a right. That's a privilege is healthcare. Education is a privilege. Having high-speed internet is a privilege. Those are all privilege. They're not rights.
Hey, well, some people think they're rights. They need it.
Yeah. All right. And so next is ethanol subsidies, which, if you understand ethanol, it's made from corn. Bush helped enact this in the early 2000s, and it basically ate up most of our food supply to make ethanol for cars that we don't even use now. Because it was supposed to be this whole big push of, remember the flex fuel cars?
Yeah.
A lot of GM cars were flex fuel and Fords were. And ethanol was supposed to replace gasoline. But guess what it turns out? Ethanol puts in more pollution into the air. It's more expensive because it comes from corn. You can't replace corn as fast enough as you can get oil from the ground. And thirdly, it made our food prices skyrocket in the last decade because we're using off our corn for fuel. It's and our government is paying for it. That's what a subsidy is. Our government is giving money to corn farmers for this corn for ethanol. And it totally... when was the last time you heard the word ethanol in this country? We don't even talk about it anymore. It was such a waste of money.
Yep. Number four, the fairness doctrine he supports.
Oh, my God. This is one of my biggest pet
This
peeves.
is horrible.
A fairness doctrine, which says you have to have... If you have a left opinion radio host or TV host, you have to have a right. You have to have the same amount of time.
Everything has to be equal.
So, like today's radio lineup is basically all conservative talk radio.
The majority, yeah.
So then you would have to take some of those radio hosts off and put on a different opinionated host to balance out the playing field. Mm-hmm. Now, this sounds fair, right? Well, guess what? In radio, the other side, liberal, talk shows have failed every single time. They've lost so much money that nobody listens to them. And you can kind of see the same thing with Fox News and the mainstream media on TV. That Fox News beats mainstream media every single time. with viewership.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that.
No.
Or they don't look at the numbers.
Yeah.
But I've looked at the numbers, and they, even in the worst time slots, when Beck was there, 5 o'clock, that's not a...
Yeah, I mean,
Big
O'Reilly
prime
is number
time.
one. He's been number one on cable news. And
Beck was kicking everybody's behind at the 5 o'clock time
well,
slot.
if you added, when Oberman was on MSNBC,
Garbage.
if you added Anderson Cooper, all of them together, it would not add up to Glenn Beck or O'Reilly when they had their times when Beck was there. And it would actually those two would actually do double or triple all the viewers from CNN and MSNBC together just in those two shows. Because that's the model that works. That's what most of America is. Most of America is either center right. They're not left. Left is more on the fringe, and the extreme right is on the fringe. But most people in this country are middle right. So the fairness doctrine doesn't work because radio. That's why radio stations tried this, and they lost so much money they had to put conservative radio show hosts back on just to make money again because nobody was listening.
Another example of the government putting its hand in the cookie jar.
Exactly. So the fairness doctrine I do not support at all. Let the free market handle that. If viewers want to listen to the other side, then there's going to be shows with the other side on it. But right now, it's not like the conservatives have a monopoly on the radio. It's only because they are listened to the most. And as soon as people stop listening to them, they get kicked off the air. That's what's great about broadcasting. Until you're nothing, you're on there until people stop listening or watching you. There's a couple more things on the list, but there was let's see.
Oh, he voted for the bailouts and TARP.
Mm-hmm. He got money from Freddie and Fannie.
Now, some people will make an excuse for that. He was a consultant for
it doesn't
Freddie
matter.
and Fannie. He took money for consulting. Well, he consulted them right into the ground.
When you're a politician, I was just talking to my cousin AJ the other day about this. I believe every politician should give up everything they own in any kind of investment or whatever, because you have something to play for. If you have investments and you're in Congress, you're now in play for yourself to make it easier for you to make money. Now, if you only had I would say you're only allowed to keep your own business I would have you making $25,000 a year being a congressman, and you would need your own business to stay alive or your own job. That's the only thing you could keep. Everything else, any investments in companies, you have to drop automatically.
Oh, and I should correct myself. I said he voted for the bailouts and TARP. He supported them. He wasn't in Congress, but still.
Either way.
Nevertheless.
He would have voted for it if he was in Congress. And then he wants amnesty, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, we heard that in the debate a couple weeks ago. He opposed the Ryan bill. For any of you who know about the Ryan bill, Paul Ryan from Wisconsin. It's the only bill or the only real
fix
that people have come up with that makes sense
to cut trillions of dollars pretty quickly off the budget.
And Newt goes out and calls it right-wing social engineering.
Yeah. So you know what, Newt?
Where's your plan, Newt?
Exactly.
Where is it?
Oh no, his plan is to spend more and tax more, just like Obama's is. That's what his plan is.
And then of course he wants more education spending. That's going to make our
because we spend so much on education now and it works so well, doesn't it?
Yeah. Our test results are skyrocketing.
It's so great. I mean, the government does everything right. Let's just go to communism.
Yeah, I mean, 40% of our school population can read.
You sold me. Between the post office, education, social security, Medicare, they're all run so well. Let's just have government run everything in our lives.
Oh man!
All right, before we go for the week,
can't vote for Newt.
Yeah, we kind of wanted to play Al Sharpton. He has a show on MSNBC called Politics Nation, and he really is an awful broadcaster. I mean, I know I might not be the best, but he is just awful. So let's just play this clip right here, and we'll come back.
Tonight is the measure of whether the country begins in the state of Wisconsin a national drive to push back, or whether we have more to go. To build a movement of resistance.
To build a movement of resistance.
We must.
Resist, we must.
We must.
And we will much.
And we will much.
About
that.
Be committed.
What does that mean? Like, how is he on national television?
I'm sorry. If you're just reading from a teleprompter, you're going to have to riff at that point. If that's a typo, You're going to have to riff at that point. You're going to have to recognize as, I can't read that on there because that makes no sense whatsoever.
How are we
How
in this
much
little studio
we
and he
much
is,
do
how
for
there's something
that.
wrong here.
That's ridiculous. So the reason I played that because Saturday Night Live had a great riff on this, and we don't have much time here to play it, but the guy from Kenan and Kel, I forget his name. He's
Kenan.
Kenan,
Something.
Yeah. He plays Al Sharpton in this video, and let's just roll it right here.
Tonight, Republicans want to stop the payroll tax holiday because they would rather help millionaires. I'm Al Sharpton. Let's talk about it on Politics Nation. Now, Republicans
Now he's looking at the wrong camera at this point.
Over here? Okay. Republicans are stuck between voting for tax cuts and voting for millionaires, two of their most prized priorities. Joining me tonight are Kelly O'Donnell, an MSNBC analyst here in our studio, and Jim Vander Heeho of Politico Period Com.
Hello, Reverend. It's Vanda High.
And a big Vanda High back to you. Now listen, President Obama has been pushing this payroll tax tax holiday, which has been helping middle-class folks up and down America. And these Republicans now talking about how it's bad for this.
First of all, I just love that. Republicans. Republicans. I'm pretty sure there's not a P in publicans.
And that and the other. Kelly, here's my question. Do these people have rocks in their heads?
The Republicans who are fighting the tax holiday.
Great question.
Everybody. Does everybody have big old rocks in their heads?
I don't know if they have rocks, but many in the GOP have been pushing to cut any form of taxes, so it's odd that they're stonewalling the president on
I just need to cut in. You think they're actually being, they're exaggerating here? They're not.
No, I think he's actually doing a better job than Big Al.
Yeah. He's said stuff like this before, like having rocks in your head. It's ridiculous.
this one.
Stonewalling? Now, you know, stones are just a variation on rocks. So they have rocks? I mean, big old roly-poly rocks in their heads?
No, not actual rocks.
I can't get a straight answer. Let's go to Jim Vander Heehaw.
Vanda High.
Sharpton High. Okay, now, Jim.
Now he's looking at the wrong camera
Those in
again.
the GOP want to talk about helping people. What? Was the wrong camera? Well, which one is it? The red light. There's red lights everywhere. On the top. Okay, so this one. What? Now wait, you just switched it on me now. No, that's what I need to be asking you. Have you ever been on TV before? No,
And this is
all right,
exactly
then.
what goes on in the show. It's
Okay,
so funny.
right here. Oh. Jim.
Does he have a rock in his head?
Are these Republicans out there being Nazis?
Well, that seems extreme, but I do think the president has put Republicans in a tough place, and they're going to have to kind of take both sides of this.
But they aren't Nazis?
No, they are
There's
not
the
Nazis.
MSNBC spin that
Here,
we
listen, I put it to you like this. When I was little, we would play Catch the Nazi in the backyard. We put a blueberry pie in a box,
man.
and the Nazi would come around.
All right, well, that's all we have for this week in the show. We just figured we'd leave you off with something to laugh at. Good old Al Sharpton. Make sure you watch his show, Politics Nation, on MSNBC.
Resist we much.
Exactly. We'll see you next week. Thanks.